Thanks, guys. Great to be here. And so, great news out of Indiana. After decades of mooching off taxpayers, this disgusting, vile, perverted, I can't say enough bad things about this place, institute, they call it that Kinsey Institute for Research in Sex, Gender, and Reproduction. And yes, that Kinsey, the pervert who trained up an army of pedophiles to molest babies and children and to time how long it took them to climax, by which climax they meant scream, yell, holler, cry, pass out. Yeah, that monster. So his Sex Research Institute at Indiana University is no longer going to be getting taxpayer dollars. So thank goodness. It's about time. In fact, it should have been done many years ago. But they have this institute. It's at Indiana University, and it is, of course, named after the infamous pervert and sex maniac. Obviously, critics of Kinsey and his disgusting legacy were thrilled by this news. Perverts, leftists, and people mooching off the taxpayer were less than happy about the news. So the effort to stop this funding for this horrific institute was led by conservative stalwart Representative Larissa Sweet. She's a Republican. We actually talked to her earlier this year about some great bills she had to protect children from genital mutilation through surgery, from other abuses that they were perpetrating. And she was speaking on the floor of the House about this move to defund the Kinsey Institute. And she pointed to, among other things, this vile history of involvement in sexual abuse, barbaric sexual abuse of children. And so Kinsey, as I mentioned, he trained a bunch of pedophiles to molest children, and then recorded the data in these tables in his book. One of the books, 1948 book, Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, included multiple tables documenting this. They claimed that a baby was having X number of climaxes in X number of time, and they knew because Kinsey had trained all these perverts with their stopwatches. And so from this crazy research, Kinsey concluded that children were actually sexual beings from birth, and that they needed as much sex education as we could possibly get for them, so that they would be ready to do whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. So part of the way they advanced this agenda was through creating SECUS, the Sex Education Information Council of the United States. Now it's called SECUS, Sex Ed for Social Change. And they have been perverting and sexualizing and grooming children for decades. In fact, Representative Sweet, speaking of the evil that might still be going on at the Kinsey Institute in Indiana, said, could they be hiding child predators? If there is any place where Chris Hansen needs to bring to catch a predator, it's Indiana University. And Dr. Judith Reisman, who I interviewed about this subject, she was probably the world's leading expert on Kinsey. She raised these types of concerns as well, like what is going on at this hothouse of perversion. Somebody needs to go and investigate. I mean, law enforcement needs to get involved here. This is just absolutely horrific. Now, the university was upset by this. The president of the university, her name is, Pamela Whitten. She said that this was an attack on academic freedom. The university is concerned that a provision singling out a specific research institute sets a troubling precedent with implications that could limit the ability of public colleges and universities to pursue research and scholarship that benefits people and improves lives. She didn't explain exactly which element of this perverted so-called research was improving people's lives. Inquiring minds would like to know, what is her relationship with the Kinsey Institute? Does she have any skeletons in the closet? Definitely concerned minds would like to know. But some heavyweights at the national level did celebrate this. Liberty Counsel Chief Matt Staver, he was one of the people supporting the effort to defund the institute. He celebrated this. He said, Alfred Kinsey was a sexual pervert whose unscientific propaganda exploited women and harmed children. Kinsey should have been prosecuted for the vile abuse of children he cataloged in Table 34 of his first book, published in 1948. His work is indefensible. Indiana University should disassociate itself from anything related to Kinsey. Now, I mentioned I was able to interview Dr. Judith Reisman. She was a wonderful lady, and one of the things she told me, she actually broke the news when talking to me, was that the CIA had been involved with this pervert Kinsey. You might have heard of the MK Ultra, the Project MK Ultra, where they're doing mind control experiments. It involved sexual abuse, it involved force feeding mental patients LSD, all kinds of horrific things. And Judith Reisman found documents documents and evidence showing that the CIA was involved with this disgusting pervert at Indiana University. She always called for criminal investigations and for Congress to get involved. Now, Kinsey's criminal pseudoscientific research was also sponsored by the Rockefeller Foundations. Are you surprised? And of course, as Judith Reisman often pointed out, this pseudoscience was used as the foundation, as the pretext to radically transform our laws on marriage, on sex, on gender, on rape, and many other things. And of course, it was the foundation of the perverted sex research happening, or the sex education happening at our schools across the country. Now, the idea that taxpayers should be funding this is sick, it's wicked, it's evil. Taxpayers should be funding law enforcement investigations to go back and figure out what all happened at this disgusting center. It's an abomination, it's horrific, it's a stain on Indiana and the United States. And so kudos to the brave representatives, senators, and the governor who finally put an end to it. We've got to get to the bottom of this, folks. There needs to be investigations. These crimes and these frauds need to be exposed. The lives and well-being of children and future families depend on it. So thanks, guys.